The night he said he'd rather kiss a dog than touch me, I didn't cry. I took off my wedding ring with a grace he wasn't even sober enough to notice and placed it on a marble counter that cost more than my first car. He still didn't look up, so I smiled and started moving the empire I helped him build, brick by digital brick, into my name. If you've ever been spoken to like you were disposable, like your love was an inconvenience, this story is for you. I was already dressed for the charity gala, in a velvet gown the same color as dusk. It had a back so low it whispered scandal, but quiet enough to still be called elegant. I'd had my hair done in soft waves. He used to love running his hand through them before events, murmuring how I was the only thing in the room worth looking at. But that night, I stood in front of him as he slouched on the midnight blue sectional he'd imported from France. Eyes glazed, shirt unbuttoned, phone still warm from whatever woman had just texted him. "You're not actually wearing that, are you?" He muttered, not glancing up. "I'd rather kiss the dog." The silence that followed cracked like a mirror. My heart didn't break, it pivoted. Something colder than rage swelled in me. Clarity, maybe, like watching the tide pull back before a storm. He thought I'd shrink, that I'd get emotional, beg, maybe swap into something less desperate. But I just looked down at him. For the first time in years I saw him. Not the dazzling entrepreneur the magazines wrote about, but a drunk, deteriorating man who'd forgotten who built his empire beside him. I turned, picked up my clutch, walked past the greyhound curled at the door. He kissed her on the head, but couldn't even look at me. It would be our last night as us. Only he didn't know it yet. Let me tell you how I got here. From the beginning, I was the architect behind his empire, not just the pretty wife in leather heels at the launch parties. Reese was magnetic. He had the charm of someone who believed they were born to own rooms. And in the early years, it was intoxicating. He was bold where I was quiet. I was the detail to his dream. Our differences felt like power, not friction. I met him at a tech networking brunch in downtown Chicago, back when I still took the train to my copywriting job and believed thrift stores were glamorous. He was standing next to the glazed donuts, pitching his app idea to someone half listening. I lingered, half amused, until he threw me a line straight from a movie. "You look like someone who can see through bullshit. Am I right?" He wasn't wrong. That's why I didn't fall for him until 3 months later. Reese lived like a storm. Every idea was his next billion. Every moment a movie montage in the making. He needed structure. I gave it to him. While he networked and chased VCs, I built pitch decks, redrafted contracts, formed timelines, handled vendors. We started a lifestyle tech company for luxury home installations, automated security, custom climate zones, scent programming. He was the mouth. I was the mind behind the curtain. He promised equity, of course. "When we go public," he'd say between kisses, "half of it is yours? Because you're the better half." I didn't need flashy gratitude. I liked being the quiet brilliance. For years that satisfied me, until I realized quiet brilliance only counts if someone is listening. We married after 3 years. A Tuscan winery, candlelit ceremony, that cliché of sunset vows in lavender fields. 100 guests, and only a dozen I actually wanted there. He said he wanted the best for me. I realize now he just wanted the best-looking photos. The insults didn't start as insults, they came as playful jabs. "You're so serious all the time, babe." You wouldn't get it. This tech stuff just moves too fast for writers. "Let me handle the board, sweetheart." They respond better to alpha energy. First I laughed with him, then I stopped laughing. Then I stopped bothering. But it was never one moment that crushed me. It was the accumulation. The day I found his EA had a drawer of ties at our place, the dinner where he forgot the name of the platform I created. The entire year he paraded me at fundraisers, but introduced me as his rock. Never his co-founder. I became decoration. beautiful, silent, increasingly bitter decoration. Then came that night. The kiss the dog comment. He'd humiliated me in front of others before. Told a joke at my expense during a pitch dinner. Flirted with the architect from LA while I poured wine for her. But that was Crystal. You don't say something like that unless you want to be heard. And I heard him, so I started planning. Not screaming, not crying, just planning. Reese trusted me too much. And not at all. Too much with the back end of the business. Not at all with the things that could wound his pride. I never mentioned to him that his empire, the Reese Lennox experience, was built on a software suite that I coded, licensed, and had been quietly modifying into a standalone platform he never bothered to learn. For 3 years, I'd worked with an IP lawyer named Camille, drafting contracts in my name. While Reese thought he was putting my name on luxury bags and vacation villa deeds, I'd been putting my name on every essential shell of his ecosystem. He was too arrogant to notice. Too used to calling me babe in shareholder briefings like I was creative support, not co-ownership. I waited 6 months after the dog comment. 6 months of attending events, smiling at sponsors, sending thank you gifts, and gently taking over email chains. I even helped him launch V3 of our luxury interface. He called it Lennox Touch. The press fawned. Reese shined. I stood in gold beside him, shaking hands while he kissed other cheeks. He didn't know that his V3 was already V4, my version. I'd built a private enterprise mirror of the platform. Sleeker, smarter, and free from his name. Then, on the anniversary of our first pitch, I held a private demo in New York. Wines, 3 investors, 2 CTOs, 1 Forbes journalist who owed me a favor. When this launches, the journalist smiled over his Veuve Clicquot. Tech's going to wonder where Reese Lennox went. I smiled politely. Nowhere. He just doesn't touch this. In March, I filed formal IP reassignment. It was seamless. He'd signed the split contracts years ago, all gifted to him under the guise of streamlining his role. I streamlined him right out of it. Camille scheduled everything perfectly. Silent transitions, redirected traffic. My corporation absorbed key clients with signed letters I'd drafted and delivered in black and gold packaging. Professional, sleek, final. By June, the headlines were starting to shift. Founding force behind Lennox brand, breaks out on her own. Industry darling Reese Lennox, facing platform collapse after IP shift. Inside the woman, quietly disassembling a Lux tech giant, he went ballistic. Of course, called me a traitor, threatened press, sent lawyers who realized nothing illegal had occurred. Everything was signed, voluntarily, sloppily, symbolically, because he never imagined I'd stop being his. I didn't take everything. Just the things with my fingerprints already on them. The final blow was poetic. At one of our old vendor summits, he showed up to pitch a new idea. The screen wouldn't load. The demo failed. PowerPoint froze, because the interface he wanted to use was now my property and disabled to all unauthorized users. He stood there in a bespoke suit, sweating, stammering, and I was across the room, standing near a display of my new company, talking softly to a client, not even looking over. He left within minutes. I heard he threw a glass in the green room. I live on the coast now. A private cliffside townhouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and a bathtub big enough to forget time in. My new company is steady, not viral but respected, sustainable, and entirely mine. Sometimes people ask me if I miss him. If I mourn the empire we could have ruled together, I don't. What I mourn is the woman I was before I realized love isn't an excuse to be eclipsed. That softness without boundaries becomes erasure. That the most dangerous thing you can give a man who underestimates you is time. He gave me years. Now, when I drape silk gowns over my shoulders and drink vintage wine from crystal flutes, it's not to impress. It's to remember. Every luxury around me is a receipt for silence, discomfort, and the 1,000 tiny humiliations I turned into strategy. He once joked, "You think too much?" Babe, he was right, and that's why I have everything now. Sometimes the calmest women write the loudest endings. Subscribe if you believe silence is stronger than drama.